What's up my awesome mad lads, my name is Moddog and welcome back to another Mad Theory. Once again we're jumping straight back into Five Nights at Freddy's series, specifically about one character and one character only. The most iconic character that we've been recently seen for the last few years. That's right, the Mimic. For the last few times that we've actually seen the Mimic appear, and not only in just Security Breach Ruin, but also in the trailers of Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic. Now, as we all know, based on the Tales of the Pizzaplex stories, we know that the Mimic was created by Edwin, who was supposed to, keep his son company and, mimic everything that is around. However, during that time, an accident happened, and basically Edwin actually blamed all of that effort and the tragedy towards the Mimic. And then once the Mimic was bashed up and got all of that and mimicked him, he was able to actually, tear things apart by the time when Fazbear Entertainment knew that, Edwin decided to just leave the place and leave stuff. Now technically this sort of stuff might have actually happened as well also in when we were about to get the game Secret of the Mimic. So because now lately it seems like that the books and the games are starting to intertwine, but they're putting some parts of information from the books but not everything in, if that makes any sense to you guys. But that's not exactly what I'm really here for today. The only reason why I'm here to talk about the Mimic specifically about the game itself is that who does the Mimic want to really be? Now you guys are probably asking yourself this question, what are you talking about, Mad Dog? What are you talking about that, who does the Mimic actually want to be? The Mimic can literally mimic anyone that he wants. He can literally mimic any freaking character depending on which costume he wears. Well, yes, you are right. I mean, it says it exactly in the freaking trailer of Secret of the Mimic. But there's a really good reason to why I specifically say this, is because not only that the Mimic has some sort of significance and not just the games, but he does have some sort of significance and not just depending on also on the books as well. Specifically not the whole story completely, but some of the stories that might include in who could he potentially be as the next villain, not just as the Mimic, but the character that he truly wants to be. Like his purpose, like what is his purpose that he wants to be? Now, sure, obviously, like we can go with these few options, starting off with just being the Mimic, well, being himself as he already is. We already know that he basically, mimics Gregory's voice in Security Breach Ruin, right? That's basically how he got free because, having Cassie to help him out with, deactivating all the security nodes, that's pretty much basically how it all worked. Like just being the natural kind of character that has the ability to mimic other characters or other people, in fact, or adapting to other costumes to become that specific character. He could just basically do that like every single time for what we're about to witness and experience in Secret of the Mimic when it releases. He pretty much can mimic as like, an elephant, a mushroom. We obviously know that he can mimic as the lions when he puts on the lion costume, we get the scooper ending of Security Breach Ruin. I mean, hey, it wouldn't surprise me that if the Mimic actually wears that lion suit again, that wouldn't really surprise me. And of course, there's a whole other bunch of, mascot costumes that he could also wear as well. We also know that they have that penguin costume also in Ruin, and whatever kind of other significant costumes that thing's gonna wear. I don't know about Jackie. I feel like Jackie is its separate character. I mean, at least for now, I guess. I could be wrong, but let me know that one in the comments. Do you think that, Jackie, the clown in the box is the Mimic as well? Or could possibly, just a separate character altogether? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me that it would be Jackie, but I don't know. I'm just a little bit unsure of that one at the moment. As much as we think that Jackie and the Mimic are the same character, but it just doesn't really hit me on the noggin at the moment. So basically, we could just go with, the mimic being, well, the mimic, just being himself, and also not only just to, mimic others, but also still has the ability to at least still hack into technology. Remember, he is the one who did drop the elevator in Security Breach Ruin at the ending, and then trying to be as Gregory, the middle of having their conversation when the real Gregory was talking. Look. You see that thing that the text images also comes out up there as Gregory's well? That is pretty much obvious that we know that the Mimic also has the ability to also take control of the technology, the spy cameras, or even back then when he took over the animatronics. Because don't forget, there was still like a little bit of the glitch trap virus that was created by the Mimic. That's how the Mimic was able to actually take control of Vanessa, who also became Vanny. The same thing could possibly happen if it does happen to Cassie, because think about it. She was also wearing the Vanny mask. And due to the fact that sometimes that Helpy was sometimes, his eyes would turn up orange and also have like veins on his head. This pretty much kind of also indicates that, and most of the times it was pretty much the Mimic that was also taking control of Helpy as well, which is cool, but also kind of creepy. Now, let's go talk about and discover about the two other options that I wanted to say that who would the Mimic would actually want to become. Other than just being the Mimic himself, I mean, the Mimic could also have these other two options that I want to talk about today. Going now with option B is Tiger Rock. Now, Tiger Rock is a very interesting choice here because not only that Tiger Rock has not only just been introduced in the Tales of the Pizzaplex books, but has now also been introduced as a actual mascot character in Secret of the Mimic. And it wouldn't surprise me that at some point that, the Mimic is definitely bound to, possessing that costume, and then he's gonna chase us with it. Because also in Help Wanted 2, Tiger Rock was actually a plushie due to the very extra update that they had. Now also, if you actually got a PC version of the game, you can actually look inside of what the Tiger plush actually has. And apparently, there's a bit of flesh in there, which could possibly mean there might have been a dead body inside of it. If anything, maybe there could have been a dead body in the actual Tiger Rock mascot costume, which would be absolutely terrifying if pretty much very disturbing. And it's not even a spring lock suit. Like, far out, how more freaking horrific can you get? However, in the Tales of the Pizzaplex books, it says that it is about the lingering effects of a VR experience at the Mega Pizzaplex, particularly involving a tiger animatronic, and as we all know, that is Tiger Rock. Tiger Rock in this story, specifically in that particular tale, was actually like the one who's basically in charge of all of the VR booth experiences. If you also get to read the back of the book, it says, after a session in the VR booth at the Mega Pizzaplex, Kai can't shake the feeling that the tiger animatronic somehow has stayed with him. So technically speaking, you would probably expect to believe that that's kind of like somewhat like Help Wanted 1 or Help Wanted 2 sort of scenario. But it's in the Mega Pizzaplex specifically, where this kid Kai was actually using the VR booth at the Mega Pizzaplex, and then basically what happens is that apparently Tiger Rock was the one who was actually causing all of this disturbance and all of this whole reality that is like shaking in his mind. It's kind of like the Phantom Ruby and Sonic Forces, let's be real, it's kind of like that, but it's just more terrifying. He's literally been like messing with Kai's head, and the poor kid, he didn't make it at the very end. Till the moment when he freaking escaped or something like that, Tiger Rock was literally following him. And he's dead. Yeah, major spoilers on that one. Also, the design, if you look into the front cover of the Tiger Rock in the book there, that, he looks very animatronic-like. He's not even like a suit. They still have the colored eyes, because like in the actual game of Secret of the Mimic, we do see the mascot actually having glowing eyes, specifically one blue eye and one green eye, which is very interesting. Which is the same thing that's happening in Tiger Rock animatronic in the front cover of the book here. Now, I'm maybe wondering that maybe at some point in time, if we, after the events of Secret of the Mimic, we might even get to see, like, a proper Tiger Rock animatronic suit. Maybe one that looks like this even. Maybe not completely the same, but, like, somewhat similar, because I will admit, the design itself looks really cool. Gives me some Elvis vibes. But I do think to believe that maybe at some point in time, there might be a chance that we might get to see a Tiger Rock animatronic suit for the Mimic that he could potentially wear, and then wear that so that he could, you know, he can become this new awesome looking character rather than just being called the Mimic. He is now officially, like, you know, the one and only Tiger Rock, which, by the way, also Edwin's son actually held a white tiger plush, the same thing that the Mimic was actually holding in the other stories from the Tales of the Mega Pizzaplex book. And I will admit, that's actually very interesting. I think that's poetry right there for the Mimic, because since the fact that he would possibly hold like a white tiger plush, then the possibility of him wearing like a Tiger Rock animatronic suit would actually make a lot of sense. I feel like that's definitely a possibility there. Like, I feel like that would be very cool to see. Like, the Mimic becoming Tiger Rock would be so cool. Maybe not as, like, when Tiger Rock becomes, like, the storyteller, like, being the Tiger Rock inside the tree, which is also another thing that happens in the books, too. Which, you know, Tiger Rock ends up being in, like, you know, the storyteller, which is a ginormous tree. But I highly doubt that's going to happen. I don't think they're going to be doing, like, a, you know, the storyteller as well. But I do feel like that the Mimic should definitely have something like this. Having to wear a Tiger Rock animatronic suit for the Mimic would just work so perfectly well. And I feel like that'll be awesome to see. And then the final option that I was actually going to go for, what if the Mimic were to actually be, well, trying to mimic William Afton, which, as you could possibly guess, yes, I am talking about the return or the canon introduction to Burn Trap. I know what you guys are thinking. Burn Trap has already been in Security Breach and basically the 2-star ending if you collect all of the animatronic parts for Freddy, and you have to go into Roxy's Raceway and go to that underground bunker where the original Five Nights at Freddy's 6th location is located. Yes, it is actually true that that Burn Trap has made an appearance in that game. But, of course, as we all know, that ending unfortunately isn't canon. Which, by the way, in my personal opinion, I've always wanted that to be canon, if I'm being completely honest. Whether it was still William Afton or if it's just the Mimic, also still having the ability of having to hack into technology with the glitch trap virus, I still feel like that ending overall should have been the true canon ending. And I feel like Security Breach Ruins should have done something a bit more different then, which I feel like should have worked perfectly, because as much as I wanted to see it, but it's a bit unfortunate really, but this could be the one chance that I think that Scott Cawthon and Steelwool should definitely think about as well. If any chances that, you know, the Mimic will decide to take form of like Burn Trap for real this time as a canon, like for the canon story for real, maybe they should like just have a think about that, because to be honest, I honestly don't mind. I feel like that would actually work perfectly as well, because it's kind of like that the Mimic is trying to, you know, bring back the modern glory days, the pre-modern glory days of what was happening throughout the events in the entire lore of Five Nights at Freddy's, or like back in the days of like, you know, Full Fest, or when William Afton was using the Spring Bonnie suit. Like, I feel like that's what the Mimic could also potentially do as well. Whether William Afton created the Mimic, or whether William Afton used like malicious intentions to create the Mimic, or maybe Henry must have done something with the Mimic or something. Maybe something went wrong, I don't know. But I think like it's also a good possibility that, you know, this could potentially happen as well, and this could actually work too. However, if you do have the Five Nights at Freddy's character encyclopedia, in page 208, this is what it actually says in its files. So, apparently that the Burn Trap name is actually not its canon name. However, to me, I really still think I still think that the name should be canon if the Mimic ever decides to get some, like, old Spring Bonnie parts exactly like back in, Security Breach that look exactly like this. Plus, somehow, at the exact same time, the Mimic does have some particular body parts that actually kind of match, Burn Trap's, body parts as well, which is very interesting. And I feel like this should be very... Like, I feel like that should work very well, actually. But another thing you should see in page 208 as well is that it says, "Have we met before? He appears to be another incarnation of Springtrap animated by whatever was inside Springtrap, which seemingly lived on in the form of Glitchtrap. The Spring Bonnie suit has by this time become even more tattered and degraded, and as the name suggests burned, he does still have one mostly intact foot though, so that's something." Because think about it, just by reading through that that quote right there, having the fact that they said, "Have we met before?" and whatever Springtrap was originally assigned, as we know that's William Afton. However, I do feel like that, the Mimic would probably also get some very old fleshy dead parts as well to make him look like that he is also like part flesh, as once William Afton was once Springtrap in FNAF 3. I feel like that's the kind of mood that the Mimic would definitely, try to succeed with that. Now, would the Blob potentially be in that kind of scenario as well? Well, that wouldn't really surprise me. I mean, plus I also did have the drawing series stuff that I was raring to go with, if Burn Trap possessed and fused with the Blob, or the Blob fused and possessed Burn Trap. I mean, like, hey, there's like two sides of the story if that's gonna happen for Security Breach 2. But yeah, I do feel like, at some sort of sense, I still think that it is possible for the Mimic to also even take in the form of Burn Trap again, but this time for the canon lore of the story of Five Nights at Freddy's, which I do feel like would be very interesting to see once again. I mean, I've beaten him once, I can beat him again, so I can't wait for that, if that does happen. And well, there you go. Those were all of my 3 options that who do I think that the Mimic would want to be once getting into, once after the events of Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic, and then could potentially be for the next Security Breach game. So let me know, what do you guys think about this thing? Do you think that the Mimic would want to be, well, just himself, maybe wear the lion costume again? 2, would he actually want to become Tiger Rock? Because to me, I feel like that's a high chance of that happening. Or number 2, would he want to become like William Afton and become Burn Trap, but canon this time? Love to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope you liked it. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and click the notification bell to never miss a video. Stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, my name is Mad Dog, and may your days be mad and rad.